How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to talk to you about Sputnik. Um, I wanted to just jump right in and say that there have been a lot of films in the last few years that have tried to replicate the formula of Ridley Scott's Alien from 1979 to varying degrees of success. There's been Life and Underwater and even Alien Covenant, which Scott made. Um, Sputnik is unique in that it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like you studied Alien and asked some questions about what would happen if you took certain aspects of the film and went the opposite storytelling direction rather than just borrowing from the template. So I want to ask, what was it about Alien that inspired you to try and put your own spin on that kind of formula and make something unique, a new paradigm?
Well, it's kind of true that we've been, highly inspired by the alien, but we, didn't want to do kind of pastiche or remake. And but as you know, our initial pitch, it was like, just between the producers, was like it's going to be Russian version of Alien. But we quickly realized that we didn't want to go that way, and we need definitely come up with something original, something convincible, because I mean that everybody in the world familiar with Alien. It's a Ridley Scott masterpiece. Everybody knows that, and we just inherited in some way the setting and the genre. I would say, I mean, the sci-fi horror, and which is a kind of very new genre for, especially for Russian industry, for Russian audience, and for Russian film industry, and we just decided, to create the world and inhabit it with the characters and with the original story. And I even can recall the very first draft that came up, that was it was kind of good, but it was quite absolutely a different movie than we have right now. And it was quite similar to actually Alien, Life, or such movies. It was kind of typical survival horror, and we like it, but we just thought, no, we need to do something else. And we just tried to do everything against the type. We tried to do to uh, we thought about the characters, we thought about their backgrounds, about their past, how their past affects present and future, etc. And eventually we did what we have right now. So
And to spectacular results, I think it's a very surprising film because Alien, this Sputnik has been compared to Alien in a lot of kind of press and things like that. But so you kind of have an idea sitting down of what you're getting into, but within the first 10 minutes, all those expectations are sort of gone, and you realize you're into new territory. So it's really refreshing. Between that initial concept and the final film, I wonder. I don't want to give anything away here, but there's a very dynamic and deep personal story involving the character who's brought in to observe the cosmonaut who's come back with a parasite. Was that always in the script foundationally, or was that sort of added when you were trying to explore different options to get away from the typical horror in space?
exactly, and that was added slightly later. That was one of adjustments that we did to the script, because we we quickly understood that the audience should be tightly connected to the characters, to their stories, to their personalities, to their inner states, I would say. And we just and at one point, our main goal became to design three-dimensional characters, and we tried to do it with every each character in the movie. I mean, Tatiana, Vishnikov, even this Colonel Samaradov, our terrific bad guy villain. I mean, he has his own background, and he's kind of his own trauma, and so that's what we that's what we did eventually.
I'm curious about the period setting. It's 1983. why not go for something contemporary or set in the future? What is it about this particular year or maybe this particular era that was important to you?
Well, first, nobody did. I mean, space horror that takes place in a Soviet Union. We thought that we would be first, and then I mean, we've been deeply, fascinated by all these visual aesthetics of this period. I mean, 80s. It's a great period in terms of interior design, in terms of costumes, in terms of all other stuff, and also I think it's a quite important part of an important period for Russian history. It's kind of well. Obviously, I've been born in 1987. I don't remember 83, but that was there was a few years before the perestroika started, and it still was, I would say, typical Soviet Union. I mean, that was a period, time of transition into the new era. So that was, kind of something in the middle. And we thought that kind of great environment and setting, such time of obscurity when such plot, such story could unfold.
Hmm. Um, I one thing I noticed in the opening credits was that the Ministry of Culture is listed. I don't know exactly how that works. Is that a government kind of agency overseeing like production of art, or how does that work? And was there any pushback as far as the kind of unflattering depiction of the Soviet government, even though it was sort of a bygone administration?
Well, I mean, speaking of this, title card in the beginning, it's just formality. I mean, if you would look at any Russian movie, you'll see that. You'll see that logo. I mean, and I mean, speaking of depiction of the Soviet government and all that stuff, I mean that on one hand, we've been trying to picture uh, really how it was. Um, I mean that if you'll pick, I mean that you can find a period of terror, of repressions, and all that stuff in the history of each country. I believe
Right.
that, and I mean that was like a universal image of the, some force that confronts our characters, confronts our heroes. I mean that you can take each movie, and usually the government, some authorities, they're representing this, kind of evil force. So and quite important for us was that, um, this thing of evil was concentrated just in hands of one character, which is this colonel Semiradov. And we thought that it would be quite interesting in terms of characters arc uh, to I mean that almost each character in our movie is kind of rogue. I mean, he's kind of outsider. Tatiana, she's obviously outsider. Semiradov, he's the same. He's going against his government because the government doesn't know what he's doing there. He has
Hmm.
his own principles, his own ideas, and he's doing by himself. And speaking of Semiradov, he's a great character. I mean, when Fedor Bondarchuk, the who played him, he came up with this perfect reference. He told me, let's do our version of Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now, like a god of war, like a crazy colonel, and we tried to, to follow that reference. So that's
And I think again, as far as kind of turning expectations around, uh, when we first meet that character, and for a good portion of the movie, you're questioning his motives, but he doesn't come out, so to speak, as a villain until much later on. So it's very effective. As far as the critter that follows our friends back to back to Earth. Can you tell me about the development of that creature in terms of the design? Were you hands on in conceptualizing the monster, or did you have a team of effects artists that you worked with? How did that come about?
Yeah, I had a whole team of concept artists, and we've been working closely on design of this creature for about uh, 7 8 months. I mean, it was a challenging job for them and for myself, and it was really hard to come up with something really original and convincing in terms that we exist in the world where Xenomorph, the Predator, and all the other iconic monsters already exist. So it was an impossible task to beat them. So and step by step, concept by concept, we've been nurturing this creature and trying to create it. And I think that kind of important thing that we did was that at one point we started to treat it not as a visual element, but as a character who has a goal, who has a temper, and all the and all the other stuff. So yeah, but that was hell of a job, really.
Well, kind of on that same vein, and this is where I think we'll wrap up. This is your first feature film, and it's very ambitious. The execution, as far as the acting, the story, the special effects, both the CGI and the practical, are top notch. So I just wonder, how did you even begin to approach this challenge of coming up with a legit sci-fi feature as your first thing? You could have started small, of a drama of two people talking at a table or something, but no, you decided to take on a sci-fi political adventure.
I always loved sci-fi. I mean, I was a huge sci-fi fan since I was a kid, and I recall my first movie experience that was in 1996 when I was a kid, and I was living in a small city in the south of Russia. My dad just got back home, and he brought home this first VHS tape, which was Jurassic Park, and I watched it, and I said, "Wow." I don't know what is it, but I want to do that. And I mean, and when the time came, I was for quite a long period of my life, I was deeply involved into doing commercials, music videos. I was, polishing my craft in a short form. And when the time came, I I quickly realized that I want to do science fiction, and that's it, nothing else.
So were you able to draw on some of those connections and relationships that you'd formed in that sort of those other industries to come together to make a feature?
Absolutely. I mean that I consider, my experience in advertising as my second film school, and I mean that was a great time in terms of, you know, um, trying to find my own voice, trying to gently polish my craft, and to understand what kind of tools should I use for achieving different stuff, different things.
Cool. Well, it all paid off. So
Thank
congratulations
you.
on the film, and thank you very much for talking to me. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you. Have a nice day. It was a pleasure.
You too. Thank you. Take care.
Bye bye.